praise be to Yevon, Peasant's microphone is fixed, and therefore we are continuing Theory Week. What's good, my fellow peasants, how you doing? So this one is a pretty out there theory, but one I super like. This might be one of my favourites, and when I just looked at all the evidence, I could really believe it was tangible, even though the idea of it is really out there. And the idea of it is that Dave Auburnbrie, he is a king. Dave is a king? Peasant, you have lost your mind. You have lost your schmacker, your schnizzle's gone, son. I know this one is absolutely mad. And not just any king. I'm talking that Dave is just as related to Ardyn as Noctis is related to Ardyn. That's right. Dave and Ardyn, according to this theory, and by the end of it, you'll be convinced that they are related. So buckle up, you're gonna need a seatbelt. Let's go! So while I may be adding a little bit of my own influence, my own little twisterino on this theory, a huge amount of energetic praise goes to Perona77 for this, again, and once again, if you want to check it out, EOS Revelations, link in the description. But cracking on, why is Dave a king, Pez? Okay, so I talked about Dave briefly in my Solheim theory video. And I spoke about how this dude has tattoos on his body that no man should have. He has pretty much the entire story of EOS, the backstory of Ifrit, the Sun Clock, Solheim, all tatted on his body. And someone made the joke that for us to get the entire backstory of FF15, we're going to have to see Dave nude. But unfortunately, we only have his arms to go on. So there is that. There is the fact that he has very strange tattoos that go back thousands of years. But just going to the name Dave Auburnbrie, so this is another portmanteau translation for anyone who's wondering what does that mean. Portmanteau is basically a word that is blending the sounds and combining the meanings of two other words. So examples of that could be motel or brunch. So basically it's a way of translating a word using logic and reason, and this is clearly what Square Enix were implying when they combined these words. I won't go into the full Latin meanings that were combined, but long story, Auburnbrie in a portmanteau translation translated to red royalty. So David translates to beloved and king, and Auburnbrie to red royalty. What else is there? Well, there is the cherub on his arm. So besides the story of EOS, there is this cherub, and I said that this could be a hint of the Prague clock, the statue on it. That was a hint that the Disc of Quarters was an astronomical clock. Now that could just be a coincidence, the whole Prague clock thing, but if we just look at it for what it is, it looks like a cherub, and they have one angel wing and one demonic wing. Wings of light and dark spread afar. And we know that EOS, she has just that. She has one dark wing and one light wing. So there clearly is a man. And this man could be Dave back when he had a bit of hair. Who knows? This is just a man who seems to have the same kind of wings as EOS. And just bear in mind that a huge part of this theory, and a very strong one of that, is that EOS had children. She had two children, Genji Gloves, two beginnings. And I believe that one of us was Ardyn. The other one could have been Azunia. But remember I said that there's a theory that Azunia is Ardyn's mother. We don't actually know the name of the brother that betrayed him just yet. And that those two twins, they went off and formed different households and different lines. So that's really true. And I just want to clarify, because a lot of people said, but Peasant, you then said that EOS was the creation of all life. And she was the creation of all things and the mother of all the astrals. So doesn't this mean that she didn't have kids? Because you're saying that everyone is her kids. Well, the way I kind of look at this, it's like God in Christianity. God is the creation of all things. He's the creation of all life. And no, Christians call them his father. He's the father of all mankind. But at the same time, there's a concept of Jesus. And Jesus came directly from God and is seen as more of a direct son. So you see where I'm getting at there, guys. Although there are many gods in Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Christianity, who are dubbed the creation of all life or the mother or father of all mankind, and yet they have their own demigod children and they have other gods who are directly their son or daughter. I think a similar kind of thing is going on here, guys. That's my theory, at least anyway. Continuing on with Dave. So the interesting thing with Dave is he was a hunter and he helped us. We had to go around and we had to collect dog tags. We didn't have to do too much for him, and yet he would often appear in the game. in many different locations, and if you've actually been a completionist, you'll see Dave actually appeared a hell of a lot. One of those is when you complete the game and go back to Dave's shack where you first met Dave, a series of side quests called the Orics Culinary Tales will open up to you.
Orics Culinary Chronicle, Entry 4, Partners. The fella I helped down the mountain and I are on our way back to Lestallum. At least I think that's where we're headed. Should only be a little further, but I feel like we're just going round in circles. The fella said we ought to take the road less travelled, follow the river, that the fish will keep our stomachs filled. Sharp as a tack, this one. Says he wants to be a journalist, but I reckon I ought to make him my partner.
And in this quest, you find out about a dude called Oric. Now, Oric is the hero of Saxon. He goes around and he basically slays demons. I think in one of them it says, I've got some bussermans to bust up before dawn. So this is Oric, and he's a hunter. And Dave's a hunter, so the connection is there. And Oric also talks about how his son loves fairy tales at bedtime. And we know that Dave has fairy tales tattooed onto his body. Or kind of fairy tales. These fairy tales just happen to be true. But Dave has some fairy tale like tattoos on his body. And everything about this quest just really implies that Dave is Oric's son. Now, what's important about that, Pez? Well, Oric is, like I said, he's a legendary hunter. And all this implies is that Dave's family line have been hunters for generations. But we know something else about Dave's family. We know that he's actually the son of Ezma. Ezma is that old woman, that old bird who gives you the key that allows you to access the secret parts of the dungeon, the vaults. And what's important about that? Well, that's usually important. The fact that Dave is Ezma's son, and we go to a quest that also just happens to be initiated by Dave. Surprise, surprise. And this is part of the dog tag side quest, and this one was called The Witch of the Woods. And this one is, there's been reports that Dave has gone missing and was last seen outside of Malmalam Thicket. Then Noctis, we go there as Noctis, we find Dave on the outskirts, and he's hesitant to enter, as supposedly hunters are forbidden to go in. Now, I kind of think that might have been a bit of bullshit on Dave's behalf. I didn't think he wanted to meet a certain family member. So, but I'll get into that in a minute. So Noctis, he agrees to enter the Malmalam Thicket on behalf of Dave. Inside there, Noctis meets a witch named Kimya. Now, Kimya, it actually translates to alchemy / alchemist. And Kimya speaks to Noctis about how she came to live in this thicket. She brews potions that no one else can do. She literally has magical powers. She has the powers to enhance the effects of the Oracle's blessings placed on havens, and all kinds of other magic that really no human has. Another huge one she has is she kind of seems to be a bit clairvoyant. She has the ability of foresight, and she makes predictions about Noctis's future. So all of this implies the only real magical families we've seen are the Florets and the Calums. But now we have Dave, and we have Ezma, and we have Kimya. Kimya got confirmed as being Ezma's sister, and there was actually Ezma who banished her sister to Malmalam Thicket. We could think of it as perhaps she banished her, perhaps she did it for her sister's safety after she got her powers got out, she leaked them, and she got called a witch. So perhaps Ezma did it for Kimya's safety, we don't know. But going on to Ezma, just the name Ezma alone, it is a Latin form of the name Amy, and in the Lesser Key of Solomon, a famous Greek grimoire. Greek, again, is being used a hell of a lot, and I'm going to read out what this name means, but just bear in mind that Ezma has the key to a vault, and these vaults are placed in some of the most deepest, darkest, most monster-filled dungeons in the world. And the only people who could have the key to this vault, and the only one who could get to these vaults and build these vaults, is a family who were some of the best demon hunters in the entire world. And remember, in these vaults there were also monsters. But the translation of Ezma's name basically goes on to say that her primary power is to supervise the movement of heavenly bodies in order to ensure that the cosmos remains in order. And she does that, and her family does that, so Dave and Kimya, by being warrior angels. They oppose evil spirits, especially those that make use of the matter in the universe, and often cast evil spirits to detention places. 2 detention places. I'm telling you, right, again, we've just crossed the realms of coincidence and all the evidence shows that that's why she has the key and what her family does. But these warrior angels, they're usually represented as soldiers and hunters, and they are the bearers of conscience and the keepers of history. And now if we look back at Dave's tattoo, knowing that his mother and Kimya, they all have magical powers, and they are angel warriors. The Auburnbrie family line is a magical family line. There isn't just the Florets and the Calums. There's a secret one, and it's Dave's family line, and they are secret hunters and angel warriors. And again, if you want some proof of it, Ezma, it's so cool. She is the only one with the key that goes to these vaults in the dungeons that are imprisoning some of the deepest, darkest, nastiest demons on the planet. And we go to, so if we look at the Genesis artwork, who on this do you think are the demon hunters? Who do you think is representing the demon hunter line? Remember, they're angel warriors. So instantly we go to these figures with the wings. And what are they doing? They're stabbing demons. One of them's killing Ultros, another one's killing some serpent, and there's the demons all scattered below them. These are the hunters, guys, and what is even more compelling is if we go to this shot here. There is even the key. Ezma's key. There's only one key in this game of significance, and this demon hunter is holding it. Whoa! Yeah. Oh, I love this theory. This was great. And for again, anyone who doubts that Square Enix would think this deeply, I've already proved a million times why they have. But I like this theory. Some of them are pretty up in the air and speculative. Some of them have a hell of a lot of supporting evidence. I'd say this is kind of in between. A hell of a lot of evidence for it. But going on to Dave being related to Ardyn. Pez, you said he was related to Ardyn. Where does that come into it? Well, now we know the Auburnbrie line is a magical line, and they do have powers of their own. And they're just as significant as the Calums and the Florets when you think about it. But the fact that their surname Auburnbrie means red royalty. Perona went on to theorise that they are a family of red mages. And that's why Kimya was a witch. She's just a red mage. But for as magical as this universe is, this thing, guys, it might sound strange. Why would a witch like Kimya be banished? Why would her having magic freak her out? This is a world that is magical, where actually Eos isn't really. Other than the Florets and the Calums, people don't have magic. It's not that readily available. No one else has it. All of the kingsglaive that use it, all of the bros who use it, they just simply borrow it. So this world isn't actually that magical. Even if you just look at the magic itself, it's not actually cast from a person. They don't actually cast it like mages. They just simply use balls of contained thunder or contained ice, and they just simply throw it. It's not really the same as true magic like the Auburnbrie line have. They do have true magic, and it wasn't bestowed upon them. Because this is the interesting thing. If we look at Ardyn's power, remember I said that I don't believe it was bestowed to him by the gods. My theory was that he was one of the 2 children of Eos, so no one would bestow the son of a goddess powers. He's born with them. And that's what made me think these 2 sons that went off to form separate lines, the Calums and the Florets, how could it have been the Florets? Because it says in the cosmogony books that the Bahamut, he chose a pious maiden and bestowed upon her the gifts of the stars. So he gave the gift to the Florets. They weren't born with it. And that's why the other family line formed by the child of Eos, it had to be someone other than the Florets. And that's the theory, guys. It was the Auburnbries. I hope I pronounced this right. And if we think about the 2 twins, why would they have different names then, Pez? Why would the 2 families have different surnames, the Auburnbries and the Calums? Well, if the twins were a boy and a girl, because this thing, guys, we just assumed that they might have both been male. We don't know. If one was a boy and one was a girl, then the boy would have had the name of Calum, the Calum line. But the female, traditionally, when the female has a child, it takes on the name of its father. And that's where the 2 separate line names came from. Or in theory comes from. Remember, this is just a theory, nothing confirmed. But going on with Dave, if he is indeed royalty, the Red Royalty, the Auburnbrie line, descendants of Eos, a distant king, a family of angel warriors, demon hunters who created the vaults, a family of red mages, ancient historical mages. Why isn't he taking up the mantle as a king, kind of like Noctis? Well, he kind of does. In fact, he does. We hear in chapter 13, Square gave us all the hints. We hear on a radio broadcast that it is Dave who is rallying the people of Lestallum to him, and that he is in fact leading the people in Lestallum while Noctis sleeps within the crystal for 10 years. Now that's a big deal, guys. Remember, in the world of Ruin, there are only 2 places left. Hammerhead, for some reason, because Sid Sophia, the old stubborn bastard, doesn't want to leave his sun lounger, and the other one is Lestallum. All of mankind have rallied to the last safe haven, which is Lestallum, and Dave's the leader of it. In essence, during those 10 years, Dave is almost the king of the rest of humanity. Holy schmoly, guys. All those people who are making jokes about Dave, me included, and Dave being the MVP, he really is, guys. But rounding out this theory about Izunia being a female, about being Eos had 2 children, one of them was male, one of them is female. I think we've actually seen her. I think we've actually seen the face of Izunia, and Perona pointed it out. And this is where Izunia could either be Ardyn's twin sister or Ardyn's mother. Because this could be Izunia here. That's right, guys, on the Amano artwork, the entire time it was staring us in the face. Dave's family line are called the Red Royalty, and they are descendant of magical / witches, and this looks like a red-haired witch. This red-haired witch on the Amano artwork, look at her closely, and we've seen her in other places, we've ever seen other depictions. This could either be Ardyn's betrayer or Ardyn's mother. We only made the link that Izunia was the betrayer because Ardyn just happened to be speaking about it and then said you never guess who Izunia was, and we all just added 1 and 1 and made 2, but there was no real proof that Izunia was the traitor. But the reason why I think that Izunia could be the mother, and I'm actually starting to be converted, is because this would mean that Ardyn wasn't one of Eos's direct children, he wasn't one of the twins, but Eos was his grandmother. Still enough for him to worship Eos, to be pissed by her death and the gods and what they did and turn their back on her, and that's also I think why he wears the wing, the single black wing. Eos is a one-winged goddess as well with 1 black wing, and it's the same shape, yada yada yada. But Izunia, if she was one of the twins of Eos and she was the female and she went on to form the Auburnbrie line because she was female and they have a different line, then Ardyn, if he was connected, he would be illegitimized. He would be part of the Lucis line, the holy line that Bahamut offered the crystal to. But when he got cast out, what happens when a child gets illegitimized by their father? They take on their mother's name. That's exactly what I think he did. I think he took on his mother's name, Izunia. And when we see this red witch as being Ardyn's mother, it all connects. And being the beginning of the Auburnbrie line, because even just look at the red hair, now we might see why Ardyn has red hair. Or why he even dyed it red, if that wasn't his natural colour. We also see for this red witch, she has rosebuds for earrings. Her hair is even shaped very closely into that of rose petals. Perhaps we could see now why Ardyn wears a scarf with roses on it, with a floral pattern and a floral design. Oh my goodness! Ardyn has both the powers of the Calum line and the Auburnbrie Red Mage line. And now we might see why he has different abilities. Remember, Ardyn can do things like illusions and other kinds of witchcraft, like time control and things that Noctis couldn't do. And we never seen any hint that Calums could do. He even has, it might explain why Ardyn has as much control over the demons as he has. His family are a line of demon hunters. And no, they have the wings, and they have the wings in the Genesis artwork. And they are angel warriors who were deemed to rid the world of demons. And that was Ardyn's initial purpose. And he is a fallen angel. And there's even lines that Ardyn has said that would kind of hint of it, talking about the blood royal, as if he wasn't one of them. And that's the thing, he could be a bastard. He could be an illegitimate. He's not truly a full Lucis Calum. So he's only part Lucis Calum. And he's definitely still part Lucis Calum, because although he has all those hints of having what the Auburnbries have, of what Dave and Ezma and Kimya and the Red Mages have, he also has everything that the Calums have. So one of those that I really like and really enjoy is the bad leg. I'm quickly going to cover this. So this was a huge Super Espresso, another theorist. He did a huge document talking about how Square Enix have gone into so much depth with the walking animation, with the movement animations, and you go through this God knows how many pages document, and it pretty much leaves it that there's no room for doubt. Square made it so that Ardyn had a bad leg. And there was all these hints that Ardyn had a bad leg, and he was actually kind of semi-disabled, and that was having to compensate for it. And even in the facial animations, there were hints of someone who is suppressing pain, and that Ardyn was intentionally suppressing pain to make himself seem more villainous to Noctis than he is, to make himself seem like the monster he needed Noctis to see him as. And there's all this depth to the motion capture of the movement of Ardyn. But then we even see that Noctis, when he went into the future, or the time skip happened 10 years on, he wore the leg brace of his father. And there was even times where Noctis would move when he was younger, where he had kind of an odd movement on one leg. You could kind of really see it. And this is a hint of the Calums. All of them have a hereditary knee issue. Regis had the same. And even if we go to the Genesis artwork, you can see the knee braces. They've all had to wear knee braces. But another huge reason why Ardyn might be illegitimate is because in the final battle of the kings, Noctis versus Ardyn, they had this little sequence where they used every single weapon against each other, and Ardyn would counter all of the attacks with the exact same weapon. But what was Ardyn's downfall? And Square Enix, they threw in so much meaning and symbolization when they did this. The final weapon that Ardyn could not conjure that took him down was the Sword of the Father. It was the Sword of the Father that took Ardyn down, because he's an illegitimate bastard. But Ardyn couldn't use it because the only thing that connects him to the Calums was his mother, Izunia. He didn't have a father who was a Calum. Therefore, he couldn't use the Sword of the Father, and that is why Ardyn died. That's why he couldn't conjure the weapon. That is so deep. There was definitely a meaning behind Ardyn not being able to summon the Sword of the Father, and I think this is it. And just going back to Izunia, there's even symbolism in the roses. So bar the fact that Izunia looks like her hair's a rose and she has rose earrings, and Ardyn wears a rose scarf, roses, they actually have a secret meaning to them. So on the badge, the golden badge on the arm, two roses are intertwined. In popular culture, that symbolises union. Likewise a fully opened rose, like her hair with the two rose buds, like her earrings. That actually implies a secret. So there's all this crazy subtle messaging and referencing, and there just has to, guys, when you look at all this artwork and you look at the fact that one of those hooded winged angel figures had a key, there was so much messaging and symbolizing, and oh my goodness, it is fantastic. It's brilliant to break it down, but how Square Enix ever thought anyone was, I mean, are they going to release this? Is all of this in the Ultimania? I believe that bad boy has 1400 pages. It's bigger than the Holy Bible. Does it have all of this? But I'm done, I'm out. What do you guys think? Do you like this theory? There is more to it, and I'll probably be following up with more on Ardyn and what happened during the Omen trailer. But just the idea that Dave, poor little Dave, who was just a hunter, who went on to become pretty much the king of Lestallum for 10 years, he was in fact a member of an ancient magical red mage / witch line who were descendants of Eos, and winged warrior angels whose job was to balance the equilibrium of the cosmos by banishing demons into imprisonment. Oh, good googly moogly. This game never ceases to amaze me. So there it is, guys. Let me know what you think. Smash the granny out of the like button if you like Theory Week. Hit subscribe. And once again, shout out to Perona77. Until the next video, come on!